Aku tekan ni. Testing. Assalamualaikum Datuk.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi.
Okey. Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good morning to all of you, the audience. Assalamualaikum Datuk.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
How are you Datuk?
Fine, thank you. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so this is the we call the executive talk. This is the series number 4 actually, executive talk. But the title for today is we will discuss about COVID-19 and also in terms of a little bit about cyber security. And before we proceed, let us recite Ummul Kitab Al-Fatihah. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Arrahmanirrahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Right. Okay. All the audience, before we proceed, allow me to introduce our panel for today. With us, we have Yang Berbahagia Datuk TS Dr. Haji Amiruddin bin Abdul Wahab. Okay, he's currently a CEO of Cyber Security Malaysia. Okay, welcome Datuk. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us for this session. And Datuk currently is a CEO of Cyber Security Malaysia and also our industry advisor, okay, industry advisor for Bachelor of Computer Science in University Sultan Azlan Shah. And just a little bit brief about Datuk. Datuk is a PhD holder from School of Information Technology and Electrical Engineering, University of Queensland, Australia, and MBS from University of DQB Iowa, USA, and also Datuk have done Master in IT, University Kebangsaan Malaysia, and also Datuk has a Bachelor of Science Engineering in Electrical Engineering, University of Michigan, USA. And awards and recognition. Okay, Datuk also a national committee members of Security Committee, national chairman of Industry Standard Committee on Information Technology, Communication and Multimedia, and also Datuk is a chairman of Impartial Committee for Malaysian Software Testing Board, MTSB, and also Datuk also a board member of National ICT National ICT Association of Malaysia, PICOM, chairman of PICOM Information Security Committee, board members of Cloud Security Alliance Malaysia chapter, adjunct professor in IIUM, UIA, and also UKM, and also industry advisory panel for member of UTP, UPM, Uniten, and also USAS. Okay, Datuk, without further ado, I think today our topic is more on, we want to discuss more about cyber security. Okay, what is cybersecurity? And also we know that this is currently we are facing COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to give pass the session to Yang Berbagai Datuk. Silakan Datuk.
Thank you, Cik Azizi. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Firstly, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ustaz for inviting me to this executive talk to share our perspective with regards to the issue of cybersecurity and COVID-19. I think this is an issue that is being talked about by many people, whether industry, academia, not only in Malaysia but also globally, because we are now in the pandemic area. So let me start by first giving some big picture to give the scenario of our digital world today. Again, if you look at the current situation of the cyberspace, we will find that more and more people are connected to the cyberspace. If you look at the statistics by Hootsuite in January 2021, we have about 4.66 billion internet users worldwide. That basically consists of about 59.5% of the global population. And specifically, if we go to Malaysia, we have about 27.43 million, or about 84.2% is actually internet users in Malaysia. So that shows how much or how many people are connected nowadays into the internet world. So people-to-people connectivity is also very high. However, if you look at the digital space nowadays, the convergence of technology make the environment in the cyberspace even more complex. It's no longer just about people-to-people connectivity. We can see that even devices or things, they are also connected. So that's why we have the term called Internet of Things. We even have Internet of Data, because of now people started to be connected, and there's a lot of data being connected, services being connected. So Internet of Data, Internet of Services, etc. And all these convergence of technologies and actually add more complexity to the cyberspace. They are very integrated. For example, in the environment of a smart city, many digital technologies converge and they are applied in many sectors, health sector, transportation sector, government administrative sector, etc. This is the environment nowadays, and it's getting more and more fast. For example, with 5G being introduced. So I would say all these technologies add more complexities to the cyberspace. And this convergence is not only about Internet of Things or Internet of Data, Internet of Services, and also Internet of People. They are also connected, the people side, the devices side, everything is connected. So now we are moving into a new era that converge between the cyber and physical environment. No longer just cyber or no longer just physical, but they are converging. This is some of the terms that use like Industry Revolution 4.0. And society, they use Society 5.0. So new words being introduced, such as 5.0, where they combine the alliance of all these cyber, physical, people, etc. in many sectors. So this is what digital transformation is all about. Because all these technologies are actually, they are enabled by digital technology. You name it, there are many various technologies, digital technologies enabling this. However, we need to understand that digital transformation is not without its risk. That means the more we are connected, actually, the more we are at risk of cyber threats. And this is the fact that we need to understand, because any technology is a double-edged sword. That means there are the good side of it, but at the same time, it comes together the dark side of it. So cyberspace has now become a full-blown war zone, yeah, as governments across the world clash for digital supremacy, because their digital transformation. Basically, they try to reach digital supremacy in a new, mostly invisible theater of operations. But then, now once limited to opportunistic criminals. So cyber attacks becoming a key weapon for government to seek to defend national sovereignty and even project national power. Yeah? In the Department of Defense, US, for example, has classified cyberspace as the 5th domain of warfare. Yeah? The other 4, the traditional one, land, air, sea, and space. So the 5th domain is actually the man-made domain called cyberspace, and it is the 5th domain of warfare. Yeah? And this is what been classified by the Department of Defense in the US. And to show how much risk it is, yeah? For example, this World Economic Forum, they have produced Global Risk Report 2021. Yeah? And you can see cybersecurity, digital technology, in IT infrastructure breakdown as key risk in the global risk horizon of the World Economic Forum. In fact, if you look at the ranking of top risk by likelihood, number 6, number 7, and number 9, these are all related to cybersecurity, related to digital technology. So while we talk about the good side of technology, while we talk about the digital transformation, it comes without its risk. So we need to manage that risk. And even more nowadays, the challenging part of this cyberspace, the threats are becoming more active nowadays because more connectivity. So they are getting more active. And not only that, they are also evolving. Yeah. In many years ago, we used to understand the cyber threats as, maybe script kidders work or pranksters who those hacks for fun to show off their capabilities, individuals that is trying to test their skill. It has evolved beyond that, making it more complex. The threat is no longer about just normal traditional web defacement, for example. But it has become so sophisticated to the level it has reached nation-state cyber attacks, cyber terrorism, organized cyber crime, hacktivists, etc. And also the insider threat. So it's getting more and more complex, more active. Yeah. The more we are connected, so actually the more we are at risk to these cyber threats. In the case of Cybersecurity Malaysia, we have a Cyber 999 Help Center. This is under the Department of MyCert, which is department under Cybersecurity Malaysia, Malaysia Computer Emergency Response Team. We have the Cyber 999 Help Center that receive various incidents, individuals, or organizations, public or private sectors. And normally when we receive those, we classify them into 9 categories. And out of this, for example, end of last year, we received about 10,790 incidents being reported to us, with fraud the top in the list. So basically, these are the top 5 incidents. Number 1 is actually fraud that consists of about 70% of the total incidents reported to us, followed by intrusion. Intrusion is, we received about 1,444 incidents end of last year. That is the second top in the list. Followed by a malicious code. This is like the malware attack, malware infection, etc. Then cyber harassment. And the 5th top incident was content related. So these are top 5 cyber incidents reported to Cyber 999 last year. So why is cyberspace attractive? We have to understand the nature of the cyberspace. It is borderless, it is unregulated, so no country rules, no country owns internet. So that makes it attractive. And somehow it is convenient. internet offers numerous services and connectivity. So as I mentioned earlier, the more we are connected, the more we are exposed, the more we are at risk. The other thing, cyberspace is anonymous. That's why we have problems of people hiding themselves, hiding their identity, yeah, so that they can escape, yeah, their crime. Less risk, no fear of making mistakes and getting caught. So it makes cyberspace more attractive compared to the physical space. So this is the reality, and more connected people online. So why do they continue to happen? There are various reasons. There are many motives for why these threats continue to happen. If you look at this diagram, and you can see, for example, financial gain is one. Yeah, to provide them the income. As you can see, the statistics at Cyber 999 earlier, fraud is the highest incidence, because that's where the money is. People now can cheat, they can steal easily. Yeah, maybe in the past years, many years ago, people talk about stealing. For example, maybe they go to the people wearing masks like this person in this slide. They wear mask. They go to the bank. They bring their weapon, pistol, whatever. They go to the counter. They say, "Give me the money." Blah 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 blah. That's like in the movie, But that was many years ago. Nowadays, they don't have to do that. They just have to have network. They have laptop, like what in the diagram. They just need to be connected to the internet, and they can steal more money than that robber that goes to the bank physically and asks money from the counter. So that's why it continues to happen. They can also exploit vulnerability. For example, to steal data, for sensitive information, to even espionage, for unfair advantage, even to spread politically motivated propaganda. Because everyone is connected, so it's easy to reach so many people in a very short time and simplest way, and also to exploit software, hardware vulnerabilities. So this is why these cyber threats continue to happen. So now let us look at the landscape after the COVID, facing the new normal. I think we all know that COVID-19 pandemic affects the whole world. We had it as of March last year, where we have the MCO, the first MCO. Everyone suddenly has to be at home. They cannot go out. They cannot work. They cannot shop. They cannot move actually. Yeah, and it affects until now, even though there has been some flexibility. But one thing for sure, this COVID-19 impact all industries, regardless of industries. Especially tourism, the aviation industry, education, the business. So it affects all sectors, all industries. And as a result, there's a new trend, new tradition, and new standard evolves in life. Yeah. Maybe last time we are not familiar with what we call social distancing, or physical distancing. Now we get used to it. Now we have to get used to having, I would say, wearing mask, and get our temperature, also sanitizer. So these are things that we have to get used to. And at the same time, maybe last time we tend to go to shops or restaurants to shop or to eat. Now we have to do online shopping. Yeah. So we get ourselves even more connected. Yeah. So we more, I would say, usage of digital devices. So this created what we call the new normal, the post-COVID-19 world. There's also increased and institutionalized hybrid workplace. That means we work from home. We no longer just work at office. We work everywhere. Not just we have to come physically to the office because we cannot go there. And there's also accelerated migration to the cloud infrastructure and applications. The growth in functionality and use of online collaborative tools. For example, here, now we are using Zoom for our executive talk. Yeah? Who thought that we will be using this for executive talk or even conference or seminar or whatever? Yeah, it was not a norm before. Yeah? We have to meet physically, but nowadays after COVID-19, we get used to all these tools. Zoom, WebEx, etc. You know, Google Meet, etc. So then also more attention to enterprise resilience, a rise in the e-commerce, and also expanded cyber attack surfaces due to the increased telework. So when we talk about work nowadays, we talk about hybrid workplace because work is no longer about where you go, but it's about what you do. And that means combining remote work with office work. We focus on productivity, reduce cost of operation, and prioritize employee. So that's why some people may work from home, some may come, depends on the situation from organization or from sector to sector. At the same time, at the individual level, we can see that more people spending time online. You can see the statistics. Yeah, people spend 6 hours 54 minutes. Yeah? For this is average amount of time each day that internet users age 16 to 64 spend with different kind of media and devices. They spend more time watching television, especially broadcast streaming like Netflix, etc. More time in using social media, etc. More time listening to music streaming, to podcasts, etc. So this is not only in Malaysia, but it's a global phenomenon. We also see that lifestyle change. We tend to spend more now online. That's where the increase of e-commerce. For example, 81.5% search online for a product or service to buy anything in any device. There's also 90.4% visited online retail site or store. And then about 69.4% use shopping app on a mobile phone or tablet. So this is the new trend nowadays, where more people spend money on the e-commerce. Some more, there's also spending more time on digital activities. As mentioned just now, social media, online, reading press, etc. That's also in Malaysia. I'm talking about just now global in Malaysia. But even Malaysia, if you look at the statistics, it is even more. 9 hours a day compared to the global average. That means Malaysians are very, very connected and very much glued to digital online activities. So they also spend time watching movies, listening to music streaming, social media, etc. Same thing here, the new normal in e-commerce. Just now I showed the global phenomenon. This is the Malaysian phenomenon. It's very high, more than 90% in many cases. But as I mentioned earlier, the more we are connected, actually the more we are exposed to threats. And there are various threats that is there. Fraud is actually always the highest, as I mentioned just now, in the Cyber 999 helpline. Fraud, malware, malvertising, ransomware, etc. These are some of the threats or attacks that happen during the MCO or the movement control order period. There's also technical threats related to APT kind of attack, social engineering, DDoS, and IP spoofing. So what we can conclude is actually there is a rise of cyber threats during the COVID-19, because the more we are connected, the more we are at risk, and actually the more incidents happen. And this is some of the news cutting with regards to scenario like, for example, here, cyber harassment and fraud spike during the MCO. There's also a lot of fraud, mask scam, for example, because if you remember the early stage of the MCO, the mask is very expensive. So it resulting in a lot of online fraud and scam happen during the MCO. Yeah, and scammers have very active during the MCO period. In addition, there's a lot of fake news, the content related, widespread to many people because everyone is online. And then they cannot move, so they tend to receive so much of information, including fake news. So these are activities, and this not only in Malaysia but also globally. So we need to understand that the risk of technology evolving. So we need to advance our cybersecurity approach to protect ourselves, to protect our organization. So how Malaysia as a country handles this pandemic situation? I think we now get used to what we call this MySejahtera. So this is some of the technology introduced and used during the pandemic. And for example, MySejahtera, which has been used to help detect more thousands of cases of COVID-19. Yeah, I believe they have so much of, I would say, widespread in many places where everywhere we go, we have this collection of people registering in MySejahtera. Second, there's also, as I mentioned earlier, the fake news, anti-fake news portal extend reach with app and social media like sebenarnya.my. Yeah, because if through the MCMC they have developed this portal to provide clarification and explanation, because sometimes we do not know which one is true, which one is false, which one is fake. So these are places that public can refer to for information. Yeah, correct. And in cybersecurity Malaysia, we also launched a new program called CyberKasa. CyberKasa stands for a short of Program Pemerkasaan Keselamatan Cyber. Yeah, with the aim to develop, empower, sustain, and strengthen the ecosystem and infrastructure in Malaysia and to ensure network security preparedness. Yeah. So CyberKasa is actually, in summary, is approach, a holistic approach to identify potential threats and its impact to the national security and public well-being. At the same time, to develop resiliency, to safeguard the interests of all these stakeholders, reputation, etc. So it covers three big elements, three main elements. We call it people element, process element, and technology element. Because cyber security must be viewed beyond technology boundary. It has to be seen in the holistic manner. And that's why CyberKasa is being introduced as a way to memerkasakan ataupun to strengthen, to empower, to strengthen the ecosystem of cybersecurity, covering the holistic element of people, process, and technology. So let me go through the first element, people. People is actually the weakest link when it comes to the three elements of cybersecurity. And that's why CyberKasa program focuses on this. So one of the key elements I mentioned just now is about people, and this is where we have a program called CyberSafe. Yeah? Cyber SAFE stands for Security Awareness for Everyone. So this is a program for us to inculcate cybersecurity awareness and help to foster a safer digital world, to create a culture of digital citizenship among the masses from all occupations and lifestyle. It covers also there's children, kids, youth, organization, parents, etc. Yeah? And most recently, under the CyberKasa, we have launched our gallery, CyberSafe Live Gallery. LIVE stands for Learning, I Interactive, V Virtual, E Education. So this live gallery was launched by our minister in our building in Menara Cyber Axis, where we create a gallery that helps to educate and give awareness to the public about various topics of cybersecurity, including to give some understanding about cybersecurity in Malaysia itself. This gallery had received the Malaysia Book of Record as the first cybersecurity team gallery in Malaysia. And I encourage USAS to consider to make arrangement to visit our gallery, which is the first gallery in Malaysia, and on cybersecurity. You can apply through the our CyberSafe portal. So encourage students from university students to come and learn. Okay. So in addition to that, we have developed a framework for people element. Just now I mentioned about CyberSafe. This is more to giving awareness and then to communities, to non-practitioners, more to the users or individuals when to be safe online. We have developed framework whereby the next layer of people element that we need to focus on is on cybersecurity practitioner. That means we provide training through our program called Cyber Guru. So this is competency training, basically to nurture cybersecurity practitioners that are capable technically and proficient in their operation. And after that, the next layer, which is the highest level, is to become cybersecurity professional. So we develop a program called Global ACE, Global Accredited Cybersecurity Education Scheme. And this Global ACE Professional Education Scheme won the World Summit of Information Society, or WISE's 2020 prizes, with the goal of to nurture cybersecurity professionals that are capable in strategizing, planning, and executing a cybersecurity initiative. So we have developed several training examination certification program. This is certification program. The list is not exhaustive, but these are some of it. For example, Certified Cyber Defense Associate, Certified Secure Application Professional, Pen Tester, etc., Forensic. So these are some of the certified program, and we encourage USAS students, especially those in the IT, to take these courses. This will help give market values for you whenever you are entering into job market. In fact, just to share with you, yesterday from 2 to 3rd of April, we organized our cybersecurity job fair, and there are around 16 companies offering job opportunities for more than 1,000 posts, and we have quite a good crowd, both physically and online, involved in this job fair. Okay, that's the first element. Second element is process. Second element of cybersecurity is process. And what is that? That's basically, for example, the aspects of policy, legislative act, guidelines, standard compliance, etc. So in that case, for example, we have our most recently the strategy of keselamatan cyber, or the Malaysia cybersecurity strategy, that was launched in 2020. Basically to address the data protection and security through policy, under 5 pillars and 12 strategies. In addition to that, under the process element, we're talking about addressing data protection through legislative act. We have the Personal Data Protection Act, PDPA 2010, and currently in the process of being reviewed and amended to meet the demand and align to the EU GDPR. These are the EU data protection laws. That is actually also can govern part of the world. So these are areas we call it the process. Then the other thing on the technology side, we have this national cryptography policy that approved by the government in 2013. So we're trying to develop local algorithm that can be applied for application of cryptography in G2G, G2C, G2B, and B2B activities. Yeah. Then the other element is on the compliance to international standard as a preventive measures. Yeah? So, for example, in the labs in cybersecurity in Malaysia, we complied fully to the international standard, ISO 17025, for example. We also have, as organizations, Cybersecurity Malaysia also comply to the MS ISO 27001 2013. And our digital forensic lab also recognized by SCLAP, the American Society of Crime Lab Directors. And our cryptography lab is also accredited by NV Lab. This is Maryland-based or the US-based accreditation body. And in addition to that, Cybersecurity Malaysia helps Interpol to develop a global guideline for digital forensic lab, and it is being accredited and recognized in this. Okay. In addition to that, Cybersecurity Malaysia have developed guidelines for industries, for academia, etc. Basically, guidelines related to industrial control system security, or secured software development life cycle, the Internet of Things security, for Industry 4.0, for cloud security, even the enhanced biometric access or MyCard ecosystem, even algorithm, we call it the guideline on the usage of recommended AXA MySeal cryptography algorithm. So these are some of the cybersecurity Malaysia products services, the guideline that we produce as a way to manage the aspects of process. And the last element, which is the one that normally people understand, is on the technology part, the technology component of CyberCasa. So we have to understand that currently the world is getting more complex. Traditional security approach, even though it is important, it is no longer sufficient to deal with smart cyber threats. Normally, the traditional cybersecurity, we just place our firewalls, our IPS, which is intrusion prevention system, the AVs, the antivirus. But these traditional security methods, they are actually only effective on known threats, but they are useless on the unknown threats. So the importance of approaching cybersecurity from, we call it defense in depth or multi-layer defense, covering various process, people, and technology components just now, the CyberCasa element I mentioned earlier, and at the same time adopting adaptive security approach so that they are more proactive and dynamic and integrated in this cybersecurity approach. So what I mean by that is that, for example, it's no longer sufficient being responsive to attack, to threats. Also, no longer sufficient by putting preventive measures such as the server hardening, the security patching, source code review, etc. But the need also to strengthen detective capabilities and also predictive capabilities. So these four elements is what we summarize as the adaptive security. So in Cybersecurity Malaysia, we have introduced this concept of Cyber I3. We call it uncovering future threats, looking into the aspects of intelligence, incidents, and investigations, all in one. So in incidents, the Cyber 999, so we have MyCert to handle it. And then when it comes to digital investigation, the Cyber CSI, we have DGF or Digital Forensic Department to look at it. But then at the same time, we need to strengthen detective capabilities. And this is where we have CTI, the Cyber Threat Intelligence Team, to look and uncover future threats. So we work together with public universities. We develop and jointly develop a satellite lab, for example, here in UTM, leveraging on data analytics so that we can have a strong security analytics capabilities. Yeah. So building the predictive part. But at the same time, we continue to strengthen the responsive part, yeah, the mindset I mentioned earlier, and the digital forensic. So introducing various services, and recently we introduced MASSA, MASSA. This is our something like the anti-malware that can scan the threats. You can download it free, yeah, at I think Google Store, you know, and we can help to scan your devices, whether they are infected or not with malware. So in addition to what we have, the Cyber 999 Help Center, we have the Cyber Threat Research Center, the CIMA, yeah, Coordinated Malware Eradication and Remediation Projects, etc., and the CISA team. While the forensic side, we have the Cyber CSI, these ex-forensic labs that have developed various tools, and cyber discovery and cyber death. Cyber death stands for cyber detect, eradicate, and forensic. So this cyber death actually won a Best Cybersecurity Innovation Award in Washington in 2015. But and it's basically locally developed before focusing on strengthening detection capability. In addition to that, we know that threats are not only from external; they can also come from internal. So that's why in Cybersecurity Malaysia we have data leakage protection technology and services as a comprehensive high-performance enterprise-level data leakage prevention solution. Yeah? So these are areas that we work to ensure we protect our data, which is the asset of any organization and nowadays. At the same time, we have our response center, as I mentioned earlier. Any one of you actually, not just organization, public allies, university student, lecturers, even an organization, you can report to us at Cyber 999 Help Center. You can call us at 1-300-882-999, email us at cyber999 at cybersecurity.my, and various other channels. You can also download a mobile app, Cyber 999, free for your reporting. You can download it at Google Play or App Store, and you can report any incident that you encounter in your environment, whether as individuals or organization. So, in conclusion, last but not least, this last 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes, there is need to ensure a secure, resilient, and trusted cyber environment in order to sustain our progression and prosperity. This is even more during this COVID-19 period, because nowadays many people are connected, whether individually or as an organization. As such, we are exposed to risk. So we need to be more innovative and proactive, adaptive security approach in order to address the situation. So I mentioned just now that it covers the elements of predictive, detective, responsive, and corrective capabilities. Our approach also has to be innovative and dynamic, covering this element of cyber CASA earlier, I mentioned, people, process, technology. We also need to strengthen the public-private academia partnership and also international collaboration, because cyberspace is a borderless. It is not confined only to Malaysia. So threats can come from anywhere around the world. So we need to get ourselves prepared to prevent bigger cybersecurity problems. As such, partnership, collaboration is crucial, because no one entity in this world can handle these cyber threat issues alone. They are also not be able to cover everything alone. That's why in this cyberspace, the model is about partnership. It's about collaboration. We work together. At the same time, trying to cover as much as possible the three elements of cyber CASA, which is people, process, and technology. So with that, I think I end my presentation. I've been sharing, I think, about 40 to 45 minutes, the presentation about cybersecurity and COVID-19. And I hope this gives some ideas, some understanding at least a big picture about the topic with regards to COVID-19 and cybersecurity. With that, I pass back to Azizi for maybe any questions or answer session that we have for the next balance of few minutes that we have today. So again, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Usas for giving me this opportunity to share my views, my perspective with regards to the matter. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you Yang Berbahagia Datuk. There is a lot of information, there is a lot of knowledge has been shared with us. Actually, we didn't know. I also didn't know most of the information that very benefit to us. Like we have Cyber 999. Okay, in Cyber 999 which can be contacted, we can be downloaded. We have also a free or open source application which is available for us. Thank you for your sharing and also for the sharing and also the knowledge being delivered to us. Datuk, actually our session now is live on YouTube with USAS TV. We are on YouTube USAS TV and also been live in Facebook. Official Facebook of Faculty of Management and Information Technology of USAS. Okay, there is some question been asked here. Actually, the first one is from Aisyah Kamaruddin Dato. If I can read here from YouTube, the question is: we have a cybersecurity, but why our system still can be hacked, or it can be why our system still can be hacked by another country, and also I think we can maybe Dato can answer the first question first.
Okay, thank you, Azizi. First of all, when we talk about security, including cybersecurity, there is no such thing as 100% perfect security. Yeah, there's always rooms the possible breach happen. That's one. Second, threats can be local or international. They can come from domestic or come from overseas. However, we have to understand that cybersecurity is the responsibility of everyone, not just government. Not just government. A lot of people have the understanding that it is the job of government. It's wrong. I mentioned in the element of people, process, technology. Yeah, for example, just now. If you don't cover all those processes, then we are vulnerable. Okay, let me give an example. Maybe I give an example that is layman. Yeah. For example, you have a house, which everyone else are staying in a house. If you do not, for example, close your gate of the house, if you do not lock your door, or you do not lock your window, or do not put grill, in your house, okay, the tendency of the robbers, pecah masuk, to go and enter and intrude into your house is there. Is this responsibility of you, or is it responsibility of police? Police or the government can once in a while come and check around, for example, dalam satu kawasan perumahan tu, dia tak ada kereta ronda lalu. Okay? Itu kita boleh buat, dan government mungkin boleh advise, jaga, tutup pagar. Tapi kalau kita tak buat, the carelessness of us as a people, which is the weakest link in cybersecurity, so samalah juga kita akan kena godam. For example, in organisation, if USAS, for example, as an organisation, do not take preventive measures. What is that? For example, you do not have any antivirus, you don't have firewall, you don't have, I would say, competent practitioner, and everyone, for example, macam staff-staff kita yang mungkin user, itu yang kita ada cyber safe tadi tu. Katalah a user, non-practitioner, dia pun connected to the internet. Kemudian dia klik link yang daripada mana email datang. Kan? Dalam tu ada malware. So dia klik. Itu dah nak buat macam mana? Kita sendiri yang menjadi catalyst kepada kemasukan pencerobohan tersebut. Jadi benda tu dia bukan masalah kerajaan saja. Everyone has to play role. Maksudnya dalam rumah kita pun, kalau kita tak kunci pintu, kita tak pasang grill, tak ada CCTV contohnya, maka mudahlah orang nak masuk. Tapi kalau kita letak macam-macam apa orang kata preventive measures, ini yang saya kata tadi, multi-layered defense tadi. Defense in depth. Kita letak ada, mungkin siapa yang mampu dia ada security guard, kemudian dia ada CCTV. Lepas tu grill dia bukanlah grill yang senang kena potong. Maksudnya hard yang memang tough punya. Jadi susah orang nak masuk rumah tu. Maka you can put the same analogy di dalam sebuah IT system di sebuah organisasi. Kalau organisasi itu tidak meletakkan atau memasang apa orang kata measures ataupun preventive measures yang mencukupi, memang ruang-ruang untuk dia diceroboh tu ada. Bila sebut ruang-ruang untuk ceroboh tu bukan hanya aspek teknologi, dia kena aspek yang saya sebut dalam cybercast. 3 elemen tadi, people,
proses,
teknologi. Maksudnya di sini, kalaupun sesebuah organisasi itu dia mempunyai peralatan teknologi yang paling canggih di dunia pun, tetapi contohnya kalau dari segi elemen prosesnya ataupun elemen people dia, especially the people lah yang selalu yang paling lemah ni, tidak ditangani. Mereka yang contohnya sekarang ni kita password tak tukar. Ataupun password kita letak kat sticky note, kita letak kat laptop kita sebab senang nak ingat.
Yes.
Itu macam mana? Memanglah orang boleh masuk. Dia nampak. Tapi masalah siapa? Takkan nak sebut masalah bos. Takkan sebut masalah IT department. Takkan nak sebut masalah kerajaan. Itu masalah kita. Sebab godam. So it's all about how do we protect ourselves from the 3 element tadi.
Ya, Datuk. But most of the netizen, bukan kata netizen, and also kalau kita tengok nowadays, because of netizen and also people right now, they don't realize this kind of orang kata protection. Dia macam lebih kepada it's more that blaming culture. Okay, kalau kata pencuri masuk macam Datuk kata tadi, the example pencuri masuk rumah, even though we have our CCTV, even though kita kena letakkan pagar apa semua kan, all this thing has been done, tapi the blaming culture is still there. It means that they still ini salah ni lah, ini salah kerja, ini salah ketua kampung lah, tak ni, ini salah pihak ni. So how we want to tackle this kind of culture, Datuk?
That's why dalam program Cyber Safe kita ada buat banyak program kesedaran, menyedarkan tentang tanggungjawab kita sendiri. Bermula dengan diri kita. Jangan kita tuding orang. 3 jari kita, kalau kita tunjuk, contohnya saya tunjuk ke Azizi ni, 1 jari, 3 jari, 4 jari tunjuk ke saya balik sebenarnya. Jadi kita faham itu. Jadi culture yang macam tu kita kena ubah. Saya nak tanya sekarang ni, saya tak tahulah berapa peserta yang ada sekarang ni tengah live online. Kalau saya tanyalah, mungkin pasal saya tak dapat feedback daripada live, tapi kata sekarang ni, katalah kita ada 100. Saya nak tanya 100 orang tu, siapa ada smartphone? Majoriti kata saya ada smartphone. Betul? Sekarang tanya
of course, semua orang yang lain ni semua akan ada smartphone sebab dia boleh layan online ni.
Betul. Sekarang saya nak tanya, siapa yang dalam smartphone dia tu ada antivirus dia pasang? Saya rasa setakat kami ni, majoriti lah bila tanya di mana-mana talk kita bagi ni, majoriti kata tak ada antivirus yang dipasang kat smartphone dia. Honestly. Soalan saya, kenapa tak pasang? Kan? Kalau laptop kita letak antivirus, kenapa dalam smartphone kita tak install antivirus?
Ya, betul.
Siapa, kerajaan ke atau salah kita?
Betul.
Jadi bila tak ada, apa beza dia? Sistem sama je. Jadi senanglah orang nak infect virus kat dalam kita punya smartphone.
Yes.
Jadi situlah saya nak tekankan bahawa kalau kita tidak ambil tanggungjawab, bahawa keselamatan ini adalah tanggungjawab kita, bukan hanya kerajaan. Yes, kerajaan pun ada peranan dia. Kalau dalam sebuah syarikat, bos ada tanggungjawab dia. IT department ada tanggungjawab dia. Kalau dalam usaha contohnya. Tapi masalahnya, kita punya sikap juga. Bila sebut contoh dalam sebuah organisasi, katalah usaha kan. Oh, masalah cyber security ini adalah masalah IT department. Ini masalah Azizi seorang lah. Azizi, betul tak?
Ya, betul.
Dia patutnya diambil tanggungjawab bersama. Bila masuk bersama tu, maksudnya sekurang-kurangnya kita ni tidak menjadi ruang tempat di mana pencerobohan tu atau penggunaman tu boleh berlaku. Bagaimana? Kita letak dalam macam saya tadi, kita punya komputer updated, software kita patch. Ada tak selalu patch software kita dengan latest update? Lepas tu adakah kita selalu tukar password? Password, apakah password anda? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Aduh. Ataupun PASSWORD. Tak tukar daripada default, daripada dulu lagi. Tu masalah siapa? Ya? Jadi benda-benda macam ni adalah sebenarnya masalah manusia. Sebab itu orang kata keselamatan cyber, masalah cyber ni sebenarnya the weakest link dia ada dekat manusia. Well, tidak dinafikan teknologi itu adalah satu komponen yang penting. Sebab itu dalam konteks kita di Cyber Security Malaysia, kita menekankan aspek 3 elemen tadi. Sebab itu kami perkenalkan program yang komprehensif dipanggil Cyber Kasa. Program pemerkasaan keselamatan cyber. Untuk menyatakan bahawa isu keselamatan cyber ni bukan hanya semata-mata isu teknologi. Bukan hanya semata-mata isu teknikal. Tetapi juga dia merangkumi aspek contohnya proses dan juga people. Kalau proses contohnya, kita kena ada satu proses dari segi data classification contohnya. Ada data yang kita panggil sulit, rahsia besar, terhad. Dah tahu, kita ada tak proses tu dalam sebuah organisasi? Kita menyatakan begitu. Dengan itu, kita amalkan dia. Dan kemudian, kita pastikan bahawa penjagaan data-data yang dikongsikan, peribadi yang dikongsikan kepada organisasi tersebut, dia betul-betul lindungi dan mengikut apa yang telah dinyatakan di dalam Akta Perlindungan Data Peribadi PDPA, Personal Data Protection Act. Adakah ia dilaksanakan? Jadi benda-benda tu sebenarnya mengambil kira kita juga untuk bertanggungjawab, memainkan peranan kita. Barulah insya-Allah kemungkinan ataupun probability untuk kita diceroboh itu rendah.
Okey. Datuk, ada 2-3 soalan lagi yang mungkin samalah. We can say that the same question, and also Datuk also dah respond about we have to play our role as a pupil, process and system and so on. Daripada Nurul Natasha, Syami ni semua saya skip lah because of I think that this is the question has been asked by Datuk just now. And saya tertarik, I'm really interested to this question from Mazuja. Okay, the question is, do we need cyber security insurance, Datuk? Is our cyber security insurance policy appropriate to our risk or not? Do we have cyber security insurance in Malaysia or not? That is the question from Mazuja.
Okey, terima kasih dengan soalan tersebut. Satu soalan yang menarik. Ini sebenarnya satu soalan yang sebenarnya di tengah diambil kira oleh industri insurans. Ini kerana bila menyentuh tentang keselamatan cyber tadi, dia menyentuh tentang risiko. Jadi bila risiko, kalau macam dalam sebuah organisasi, dia akan menentukan sejauh manakah risiko. Kalau risiko tinggi, premium yang kita kena bayar tinggilah. Tapi kalau risiko rendah, premium yang kena bayarnya rendah dalam konteks insurans. Tetapi dulu, biasanya syarikat-syarikat insurans ni dia biasa dengan ancaman-ancaman yang bersifat fizikal. Okey? Kan mungkin kebakaran ke, contohnya yang benda-benda yang kita biasalah, natural disaster. Tetapi cyber ni adalah satu fenomena yang baru yang mereka sendiri tengah belajar dan cuba faham dan cuba nak menilai bagaimanakah mereka nak menentukan risiko sesebuah organisasi contohnya supaya boleh direlatekan tentang keselamatan cyber. Jadi apa yang berlaku macam saya kata tadi, kalau saya nak tanya sebuah organisasi A, B, C, bagaimana kita nak tahu risiko dia? Yang mana satu lebih tinggi risiko, A ke B ke C, ataupun macam mana kita nak nilai? Di situlah kita ada parameter-parameter yang kita kena define supaya kita tahu bahawa yang ini A ni lebih risiko tinggi dibanding yang B. Jadi antara dia ialah apakah langkah-langkah yang telah dibuat mengambil kira 3 elemen tadi. Contohnya people tadi. Dan adakah contohnya staff-staff yang dalam contoh katalah saya guna USAS. Adakah semua staff-staff USAS telah mendapat pendedahan knowledge ataupun ilmu asas tentang kesedaran cyber. Kalau ada satu lagi universiti atau organisasi lain, dia ada berbanding dengan USAS, contohnya, risiko manakah yang lebih tinggi? Risiko yang tak ada training itulah. Itu juga dari segi level, itu dari segi non-practitioner. Kalau practitioner pula, contohnya dalam USAS berapa orang IT ataupun IT security expert dibandingkan dengan organisasi satu lagi, katalah B. A banyak ni, katalah A ada 1, B ada 10. Jadi manakah yang lebih risiko kurang atau lebih tinggi? Jadi kita akan berdasarkan tu. Jadi kita parameter yang kita tengok dari segi people element, competent ke tidak, kemudian dari segi proses, adakah dia telah certified. Macam contoh kami di Cyber Security Malaysia, kita adalah organisasi yang certified di bawah ISMS 27001. Ada organisasi kebanyakan yang tidak certified under that. Apa bezanya? Ialah bila ada ISMS 27001 menunjukkan bahawa kita mengamalkan amalan terbaik dan kita mengamalkan satu standard piawaian yang mengurus keselamatan maklumat dengan baik. Jadi kalau satu lagi organisasi tidak mengadakan certification ISMS, maka risikonya lebih tinggi. Maka premium lebih tinggi. Jadi sebenarnya isunya ialah parameter-parameter itu. Dan parameter-parameter itu insurance company dia tak biasa lagi. Jadi sebenarnya bidang baru. Cyber insurance adalah bidang yang sedang berkembang. Dan cyber security sebenarnya telah membangunkan beberapa parameter. Kita dah bangunkan untuk diambil kira sebagai bagaimana sesebuah syarikat insurans nak menilai risiko sesebuah organisasi. Jadi ongoing.
Okay, Datuk, kita pun we have not much time because of kita dah janji sampai pukul 11. Datuk pun ada perkara lain yang dischedulekan daftarnya. Cuma maybe saya nak baca semua pun mungkin I cannot read all the question here, but maybe the last question maybe we can ask because of kita tahu currently everything is online, teaching and learning is online. Semua converted to online. And then my question is Malaysia really ready in having this transition from traditional learning method to online or not? In terms of infrastructure, in terms of cyber security, in terms of that. Because there is a lot of complaint. There are a lot of complaint from parent, daripada ibu bapa, daripada anak pelajar dan juga student yang kata, kami ready. We are ready untuk go online. But kadang-kadang bila kita masuk, duduk di Sabah, kita ada kes yang di Sabah yang kena panjat pokok. Dan our student also USAS, dibaling, dia terpaksa naik pokok, panjat pokok, letakkan dia punya receiver. So, benda-benda tu adakah, macam mana Datuk? Adakah we as a Malaysian, we are ready or not?
Okay, dia pertama sekali, dalam era COVID-19 ini, persoalan tentang ready tak ready itu dah jadi secondary. Kita dah tak ada pilihan. Itu pertama. Tetapi pada masa yang sama, dia membangunkan satu norma baru, saya kata tadilah. Kalau dulu kita tak pernah ada mesyuarat online, sekarang kita kena ada mesyuarat online. Dulu kita kurang belajar online, learning, e-learning contohnya, sekarang dah kena banyak online. So nak tak nak kita kena face. Cuma dari sudut persediaan, dia sebenarnya banyak faktor. Antara dia termasuklah yang disebut tadi oleh Azizi, infra. Mungkin di bandar, infra mungkin lebih mudah. Tapi luar, kampung, di cabaran tu mungkin ada. Jadi mungkin akses tu taklah semudah yang kita sangka lah. Tapi nak tak nak kita terpaksa berpada. Kalau tanya ready, kita sebenarnya belum fully ready, tapi kita sedang menuju untuk mempersiapkan ke arah tu. Saya buat analogi, contohnya bila berlaku COVID-19 ni, banyak orang ada buat satu macam joke. Dia kata, who is the catalyst of digital transformation in the organisation? A, CEO, B, CIO or CTO, C, COVID-19. Orang akan kata COVID-19 sebab kita terpaksa. Samalah juga dengan pendidikan. Nak tak nak, ready tak ready, kita kena embark into it. Memanglah kita kata tak ready, tapi nak tak nak dia mencabar sebab
Yes.
satu infra, satu lagi kita punya attitude juga, ya. Cikgu nak mengajar susah sebenarnya, dia kadang-kadang student kadang-kadang macam-macam benda dia buat, ya.
Yes.
Bila belajar di rumah, kerja di rumah ni, dia punya gangguan pun banyak.
Yes. Correct.
Lepas tu nak mengajar dia lain pasal ada benda yang kita tak boleh nak explain secara online. Tambah-tambah benda yang menyentuh tentang makmal, ya, yang menyentuh tentang apa, kena ada fizikal. Jadi payah jugalah, ya. Jadi kalau nak tanya, ya memanglah apa, kita belum fully ready, tapi maybe this new norm that we have to adjust lah. Kalau exam pun contohnya susah kita nak kontrol.
Yes, it does.
Ya, test dan sebagainya. Cikgu pun pening juga mengajar. Siapa yang dalam, contohnya sekarang ni, tak apalah kalau kita tak tahu siapa yang dalam online. Ya, orang yang boleh dipercaya ke tak percaya ke, bila dari segi security, privacy, ya, benda-benda yang kita kongsi, kan, bahan-bahan data kita, content material. Kemudian content material kita tu pula, katakan orang lain yang kita tak tahu duduk dalam kelas tu, dia pula gunakan untuk benda lain. So there are a lot of issues lah. But whatever it is, we need to get ourselves ready to the new norm. Yeah? And it obviously covers a lot of aspects. Yeah? Teknologi, sikap kita sendiri, dan juga persediaan kita dari segi pelbagai proses dan sebagainya. Like it or not, saya tak rasalah kita ready, tapi obviously we are making ourselves ke arah ready lah. I think this is not only Malaysia, but also I believe it's also happening globally. Yeah, because now it's the new trend. Yeah, kalau tanya, adakah kita ready beli online? Dulu lah. Nak sekarang ni kena ready lah.
Kena ready.
Lebih kurang itulah jawapannya.
Okay, Dato', this is last question. Yang ini saya rasa this is the current situation. Yang we know that North Korea, Korea Utara telah memutuskan jalinan perhubungan dengan Malaysia. That some of the rumours, kalau kita baca dalam digital forum, IT forum, cyber security forum, banyak isu-isu yang dibangkitkan from this forum yang katakan Malaysia also bukan kata menghadapi ancaman daripada ketenteraan, but also Malaysia also facing this threat warning from North Korea in term of cyber security ataupun cyber security attack. So what is your comment Dato' in term of that, and how Malaysia react to this issue?
Okay, firstly, bila kita sebut tentang isu ni, dia sebenarnya adalah di bawah bidang kuasa Kementerian Pertahanan. Ya. Di mana ada antara country to country kalau berlaku warfare lah, dalam konteks ini, maka dia adalah skop Kementerian Pertahanan. Jadi Kementerian Pertahanan actually dia sedang meningkatkan lagi keupayaan dia untuk mempertahankan ruang cyber lah. Cuma kita kena faham bahawa setakat ini benda itu adalah berperingkat spekulasi, ya. Media-media mungkin kata mungkin diserang, tapi setakat ini kita bukanlah kata kita apa orang kata nak diserang, tapi alhamdulillah setakat ini tak adalah kejadian-kejadian yang tidak diingini berlaku. Cuma yang sepatutnya kita fokus bukan sebut tentang orang nak serang, tapi kita menyiapkan, ya, bagaimanakah pasukan kita, bagaimanakah contohnya Kementerian Pertahanan engage dengan various sectors, public, private sector dan sebagainya. Bagaimana kita nak mempersiapsiagakan, bagaimanakah kita nak bekerjasama dalam mempertahankan ruang cyber negara. Jadi itu sepatutnya yang fokus. Sebab dengan ini kita patutnya ambil ruang untuk meningkatkan lagi awareness, training, juga mempertingkatkan yang saya kata tadi lah, defense in-depth approach yang lebih smart, ya. Mungkin kita make use of cyber threat intelligence capabilities, ya. Dan kita approach adaptive security tadi yang merangkumi elemen cyber kasar yang saya sebut tadi, iaitu 3 elemen tadi lah, ya.
People, system,
proses dan teknologi. Ya, kita pastikan dia boleh berlaku, attack can happen anytime, anywhere. Ya, that's why we need to be always ready. Ya, sebab itulah saya kata tadi, be prepared. Ya, is the best way lah to manage this issue. Bukan hanya sebelum isu, bukan hanya because of the Korea punya isu ni. tetapi juga bila-bila pun kita tahu threat can come from anywhere. Yeah, so we must be vigilant over the possibility that something not good might happen. Jadi, walaupun mungkin ada dah berlaku sebelum-sebelum ni di negara lain dan sebagainya, our role is actually jangan kita fikir over sangat tentang orang apa yang nak berlaku ni. Tapi kita sendiri sentiasa menyiapkan diri kita dengan persiapan yang merangkumi 3 elemen cyber kasar tadi. People, process, technology. Berurusan untuk rakyat sebab saya nampak MINDEF saja tak boleh handle. Just macam saya sebut tadi lah. Cyber security in everyone's responsibility. Kalau kita punya infra bagus, kita train, kita aware, insyaAllah the chances of being attacked apa orang kata dicerobohi itu agak rendah. Ya. Tapi kalau kita sendiri memang memberi ruang untuk dicerobohi dengan kita sendiri careless dan sebagainya, maka di situlah vulnerability berlaku dan menyebabkan boleh kita dicerobohi dan diserang.
Okay, thank you, Dato'. Okay, there is saya actually a lot of question been asked here, but we running out of time because Dato' also have another appointment. But from USAS, we think that this is a very good platform to share with others, with USAS punya community and also with outsiders there yang menonton kita secara live ni. At least kita dapat maklumat sedikit the information about what currently cyber security doing to protect our information and also our system, our infra in Malaysia, and also what are those training and also what are those application available that we can get through online. Actually, thank you, Dato'. And again, saya minta maaf sekiranya tersalah bahasa, terkasar ataupun terguris ke apa ke sepanjang kita punya executive talk ni. Dan again, sekali lagi I want to thanks Dato' and also Cyber Security Malaysia for this opportunity and also for this sharing session. Kerana banyak maklumat yang kita dah dapat, dan we hope that after this akan ada more this session with cyber security, not only Dato', mungkin Dato' ada team yang lain kita boleh share untuk kita sama-sama tahu berkenaan perkembangan cyber security di Malaysia. So again, thank you, Dato', for being with us. I'm sorry because of kalau kita terambil lebih sikit 10 minit masa Dato', kita janji sampai pukul 11. Minta maaf, Dato'. Jadi saya rasa setakat itu saja. Thank you. We close with tasbih, kifarah dan suratul as. Illalladzina amanu wassalatu. Okey, sekian. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dato'. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Alhamdulillah, settle.